good morning, and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. Thank you ever so much for joining us here on this Tuesday morning. It is the 29th of November, 2022, in the year of our Lord. It always is good. It's always good, and today's show is going to be really good too. So listen, hang in there, stay tuned, and we'll be back right after these messages. Well, hey everybody, my name is Willie Lawson, and you guys know that I do a lot of stuff on the internet. And you may think with what's happening on Twitter and what's happening on Facebook and what happened to Parler that the mainstream social media sources are really trying to rid themselves of conservative voices. And you'd be right. They most certainly are. But you know what? It isn't as bad as you think it is. It's worse. But there are people who are willing to be platformed for free speech. One of those places is freedomforum.website. freedomforum.website. You can go there and speak your mind. So come join us. Enjoy the freedom. Enjoy the fun. If you are a true blue conservative, small businesses are near and dear to your heart. They are the lifeblood of our life and economy. I believe this, and that's why my florist is not a website or a phone number. My florist is Bloomingdale's Flower Shop, Tampa's premier flower shop. At 11618 North Florida Avenue here in Tampa, Florida, and at 6835 State Road 54 in Newport Richey. Call Christine at 813-933-1942 and at 727-232-6900. She can also be reached on the web at www.bloomingdays.com. One of the things that I get asked most is where can I get information that is not tainted with liberal bias, especially here in the Tampa Bay area. Well, now I have the answer. tbctampa.com, a website by and for Tampa area conservatives. Tampa's leading conservative voices speak freely at tbctampa.com. And you can too. So join the fun and enjoy the freedom at tbctampa.com. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is the Morning Report. All right. Again, my name is Willie Lawson, and welcome to the Morning Report. It is again a hoot to be here. It always is. I trust that you're having a great week as we rush headlong into the Christmas season. I'm loving it. I'm loving it at my real job. One of the other teachers came to me and said, we're having a room decorating contest, a studio decorating contest. And it's a young guy who reminds me a lot of myself when I started teaching at this particular place. And so, of course, because, I'm the old guy, he had to tell me about it. I'm in. Just got off Amazon, ordered some ridiculous lights that are meant to, I don't know, be on a house that are going to be in this 10 by 10, this 10 by 10 room, actually smaller than 10 by 10, probably 6 by 6 room. It's going to be, it's going to be like the Christmas movie, National Lampoon Christmas, and there's like, I can't wait to go completely overboard. I'm so excited. So talking about completely overboard, the left is in a constant search to find things that are sexist, racist, homophobic, all that stuff, the ists and the icks. That's what they're into. Now, the thing that you didn't expect, hell, I didn't expect this, is what you see behind me here. Elise writes this from Town Hall. She writes, one hopes that the category of that's racist, which is an insufferable, albeit momentarily entertaining game the left plays with everything, will bottom out. See, we think at some point it will come to an end because we've already decided that if everything is racist, nothing is. Because that's how life works, right? If everything is racist, nothing is. And the more things that you, because the more things that you categorize as racist, the less meaning it has. We talked about woke, using the word woke instead of the word evil, because woke trivializes it. If you use the word racist too much, it trivializes the word. It trivializes the meaning. It means and because of its trivialization, it means less. But it doesn't stop them at all. It's reaching a point where the word racism, of course, is losing meaning because it's becoming a punchline as liberal academics stretch the limits of linguistics to target innocuous objects like because my beard oil is white and my beard is white. Beards are racist. Now, we can find somebody to research that out, right? And the reason I have white hair is because of my ancestors were raped by white men who have white hair. And they needed white hair because they needed some way to defend off the snow. So they have white hair, while in Africa, they have black hair. Whatever, they have white hair too. But anyway, you know what I mean. It's reached a point where if you say things like best person for the job, racist, rising crime, racist, teen pregnancy, racist, fatherless homes, racist. So the dog whistles are many if you live an exhausting and despairing existence as an American liberal. But at the latest attempt to lecture the public again carries the qualities of being shocking and unsurprising simultaneously. Here's the latest. This is racist proclamation. Now, I picked this piece because I have a special position on this. Daylight savings time is problematic for people of color, for Black people. A recent online article from CNN argued that daylight savings time disproportionately affects the sleep and health of minority communities. The piece published on Friday by CNN health reporter Jacqueline Howard argued that daylight savings time often disrupts sleep, throws off people's circadian rhythms, and can contribute to general health problems. And since people of color have higher number of health problems, this meaning observing daylight savings time is dangerous for them. Daylight savings time is dangerous for Black people. Daylight savings time is dangerous for Black people. Daylight savings time is dangerous for Black people. The piece began by citing Vanderbilt University Medical Center Sleep Division professor Beth Mallow, who claimed daylight savings time is associated with increased risk of sleep loss, circadian misalignment, and adverse health consequences. Howard also noted or cited that the National Institute of Environmental Health and Science researcher Chandra Jackson, who stated poor sleep is associated with a host of poor health outcomes, including obesity, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, no thank you, cardiovascular disease, and certain cancers, including breast and colon. Jackson added the key point stating that many of these health outcomes are prevalent in the Black population. Daylight savings time is dangerous for Black people. Here you go. Most people don't have a strong opinion about standard time and daylight savings time. They don't. Most people don't really have a strong opinion. Most people couldn't possibly care less. Couldn't care any less about whether we go back. They don't. Most people don't even understand why we go back and forth, and they'd be fine with one or the other. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. I am not one of those people. I have very strong opinions about daylight savings time and standard time. I prefer daylight savings time. I prefer it. I want it to be the law of the land. I prefer it so much. I want it to be the law of the land. I like having extra daylight hours to do stuff. I hate it when it gets dark at 6 o'clock in the evening. My lifestyle isn't such, and most people's lifestyle isn't such that just because it gets dark, we're going to go inside and go to bed. That's just not how it works. And those few days of weirdness you get when you switch back and forth, I'm pretty sure that's not killing people. It's not killing people. That's not what made me fat. Daylight savings time did not make me fat. You know what made me fat? Pork chops. You know what gave me high blood pressure? Pork chops. You know what's one of the most delicious foods on the planet? Pork chops. You know why I stay fat? Lack of exercise. You know the thing I hate to do the most? Exercise. Let's just get real. I probably got high blood pressure genetically, probably. When your mom and your dad both have high blood pressure and their parents have high blood pressure, um, the chance that you'll get a hypertension is pretty friggin' high, right? I didn't have high blood pressure until, I don't know, I had an event in my life in my 20s, I guess, that was super stressful, and then it showed its ugly face. Since my surgery, I am maintaining a specific weight. And in my house, we say that I'm big for no reason. Those delicious pork chops I haven't had in 20. I haven't sat down to a plate of pork chops in 20 years. I'm still lusciously plump. it's not that 1 hour difference is killing me or anyone else. Here's the story. Here's the story they're not telling. There's a big push here in Florida to make daylight savings time the time for Florida. We are a state. There are a ton of outdoor activities, theme parks, beaches, all that stuff. All that stuff. And if we can keep, if the sun can stay out later, then all that stuff continues for at least an hour and a half more. And over time, that makes a lot of revenue for the state and the people who live and work here. And we like the sun in the Sunshine State. So who's pushing that for Floridians? Our Florida senators. Republican Rick Scott, Republican Marco Rubio. And this is one more thing that they can try to tag on to Rick Scott and Marco Rubio. And then possibly Ron DeSantis. They just want Black people to die by instituting daylight savings time. See, I know you're thinking, Willie, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because it is the stupidest thing you've ever heard. But it doesn't mean it isn't true. And now you're thinking about it, you're like, yeah, probably. Remember, daylight savings time is deadly to Black people. That's the next thing. No, so you can always go now, but I know a Black guy who wants daylight savings time. Well, he's just probably some sort of daylight saving time Uncle Tom house Negro. These people are impossible to take seriously. They're just impossible to take seriously. We'll be right back. So is it okay now, because it was, during the Trump administration, it's okay to talk about the president's
yeah. We talked about mental health elderly, so let's talk about this guy's mental health.
The president's mental acuity, because there's sometimes where it seems to be lacking. Have you seen?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it's especially bad. I'm talking about sometimes it's like really bad. Like, have you seen the picture?
I was told not to take any questions.
I was told not to take any questions. They're going to be mad at me.
They're going to be mad at me.
Mr.
President, are you the president, or were you five?
You see, what I want. See, the next question is, excuse me, Mr. President?
I was told to call on what you call it for NBC. Who's telling you to call on?
That's the question that we ought to be asking. Who's telling you this?
I don't understand why nobody won't ask that question.
Is Jen Psaki actually the president?
Who's telling you to call on these people in the media?
Is Jen Psaki actually the president?
Probably so.
All right, welcome back. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is The Morning Report. The Morning Report is a production of FightBackMedia.com, 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 and FightBackMediaTV.com. We appreciate you being here this morning. It is the 29th of November, and the year is moving very quickly. When getting ready for work this morning, my wife said, Christmas just sneaks up on you. It's just like it's behind the door, and suddenly it goes, woo! The year just goes by so quickly, and I'm of the mind that it is not necessarily that things are going faster. It's that we are putting more and more things in the way of the things that are important, and then before we realize it, all the important stuff is zooming by us, and we never gave it much thought or much time. But these sort of events should make us slow down. What you see behind me is a police car and a makeshift memorial for the shooting at the Chesapeake Walmart. You see that in the background there. A story that is leaving the front page. So days after the tragic shooting at Club Q in Colorado Springs, Colorado, another mass shooting occurred at a local Walmart in Chesapeake, Virginia. I have not been to that Walmart, but I've been to Chesapeake and I know where that Walmart is. 6 people were killed in the incident. The shooter committed suicide. Whenever there's a mass shooting, there's a grotesque media saturation coverage about the shooter, the weapon, the body count, because the left will stand on the bodies of not yet cold corpses to spout their crap. Right. The Q shooting occurred on November 19th. The Chesapeake shooting Walmart happened 3 days later on the 22nd. Sadly, these heinous crimes come in threes, but so far, blessedly, another mass shooting has not occurred as the media went on a tear, especially about the Colorado Springs attack because it involved LGBTQ. But in both cases, the liberal media narratives collapsed, as they often do, once the details revealed to the public. The Club Q shooter says they identified as as non-binary. An 11th hour revelation that torched the media's pervasive coverage about the shooter being a right-wing zealot that hated them gays. And I tweeted the other day that it's interesting. We are at an interesting point where the media has divided us up into these camps, and we just happily go to those camps, and we sit in those camps of the never Trumpers and the always Trumpers, and the left and whatever, and we sit in these camps, and we never think anybody around us in these camps of pre-made boxes can never do anything wrong. Everybody who's in my camp, everybody who's a conservative is this. Everybody who's a progressive is this. Everybody who's LGBTQ is this. Everybody who is Black is this. We do. And it's all media driven. It's all media driven for a purpose. We never think anybody who's in that camp can do anything heinous. So we have been taught through media that all of the indigenous people were these noble savages, sort of like some sort of weird Hollywood caricaturization of these people, and they were all just taken over and used and abused by the evil white man that came from Europe. They dumb it down to Spy v Spy. For those of you who remember Mad Magazine, they dumb everything down to Spy versus Spy. A white hat and a black hat. And in the white hat camp, there were never any checkered or striped hats, because that would blow up the narrative. That would de-simplify it. That would make it more realistic. You can't tell a good story if everything is realistic, can you? So this 11th hour revelation that torched the media's pervasive coverage about the shooter being a right-wing zealot was blown apart when we find out that the Club Q shooter identified as they and non-binary, which puts them, strangely enough, in the same box, the media box, as the LGBTQ community, right? And they're supposed to be as clean as a driven snow and incapable of such things. That's why you haven't heard much about it. In Virginia, Andre Marcus Bing, who was 31, who was Black, male who used a 9mm handgun, not a long gun, not an AR-15, with a bump stock machine gun. He alleged, who alleged abuse, to kill his coworkers, who he alleged abused him, leading him towards Satan to deal with the situation. When he cited in a disturbing manifesto, Bing was a night manager at the facility, and this is according to the Associated Press. The Walmart supervisor who fatally shot 6 co-workers at a store in Virginia bought the gun just hours before the killings and left a note on his phone accusing colleagues of mocking him, authorities said Friday. Sorry, everyone, but I did not plan this. I promise things just fell into place like I was led by Satan. Andre Bing wrote a note that was left on his phone, the Chesapeake Police Department said Friday. Police said the 9mm handgun used in Tuesday night's shooting was legally purchased that morning and that Bing had no criminal record. They released a copy of the note found on his phone that appeared to redact the names of specific people he mentioned. It was not clear when the note was written, but in it, Bing claimed he had been harassed and said he was pushed to the brink by a perception of his phone was hacked. He wrote, "My only wish would have been to start over from scratch and that my parents would have paid closer attention to my social deficits." Bing died at the scene of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Does race matter here? Or any demographic line the left loves to highlight or create as a divisive environment regarding these atrocious acts? Yes and no, sadly. This is a vicious mass murder. No matter who commits admits it deserves attention, but if it's not a white male who used an AR-15 with bump stock, media don't care. Even worse, we saw with Cub Q. Once the narrative can no longer be weaponized against conservatives, the story gets suffocated with a pillow. It is so important that we see these things and we understand what people are doing. I warned you about this days ago when this happened. I told you these stories. I told you these stories would leave the front page when the truth came out. Well, you're asking, so Willie, what do we do? You have to leave, or at least turn down, attenuate almost all legacy media. I wish I could tell you that they were going to change, but they're not going to change. Bob Iger gets fired from Disney. Bob Chapek gets fired for Disney. Bob Iger takes over, and then they release Strange World, where the lead character is a biracial, openly gay character. I told you they weren't going to stop. I warned you, they're not going to stop. And we can't stop them. All we can do is do the right thing for us. The mainstream media, the legacy media, whatever you want to call them, they're not going to stop. We have to attenuate them. Some of us have already turned them off, have turned the switch to the off position. So what do? You have to look for other sources, Town Hall, Breitbart, Fight Back Media, Swanson Report. Turn them up. Give them your support. Give them views, likes, shares. That is the currency of media that you can inject. Pretty cheap. Alrighty. I'm going to take a little break. We'll be back with more of the program right after these messages. Well, hey everybody, my name is Willie Lawson, and you guys know that I do a lot of stuff on the internet. And you may think with what's happening on Twitter and what's happening on Facebook and what happened to Parler that the mainstream social media sources are really trying to rid themselves of conservative voices. And you'd be right, they most certainly are. Um, but you know what? It isn't as bad as you think it is. It's worse. But there are people who are willing to be platformed for free speech. One of those one of those places is freedomforum.website. Freedomforum.website. You can go there and speak your mind. So come join us. Enjoy the freedom. Enjoy the fun. If you are a true blue conservative, small businesses are near and dear to your heart. They are the lifeblood of our life and economy. I believe this, and that's why my florist is not a website or phone number. My florist is Blooming Days Flower Shop, Tampa's premier flower shop. At 11618 North Florida Avenue here in Tampa, Florida, and at 6835 State Road 54 in Newport Richey. Call Christine at 813-933-1942 and at 727-232-6900. She can also be reached on the web at www.bloomingdays.com. One of the things that I get asked most is where can I get information that is not tainted with liberal bias, especially here in the Tampa Bay area. Well, now I have the answer. tbctampa.com, a website by and for Tampa area conservatives. Tampa's leading conservative voices speak freely at tbctampa.com, and you can too. So join the fun and enjoy the freedom at tbctampa.com. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is the Morning Report. Well, welcome back. My name is Willie Lawson. This is the Morning Report. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. For most of us here in America, not for everybody, but for most of us, COVID's over. COVID's over. The pandemic has come to an end. You guys know I work at a theme park, and last Friday was the busiest day we've had, golly, in 2 or 3 years. The place was packed. Almost nobody was wearing a mask. COVID's over. College football, pro football, the World Cup is back. All these things that push us all shoulder to shoulder, thigh to thigh, hip to hip, and with unmasked faces are back. I've been waiting for a while to tell the story, and it sort of fits in right here. Now I don't know if YouTube's going to allow this or like this and hit me with another strike and take down the channel. I don't know, but we're gonna try. Let me say that I hope not. Some of you know that we were at the doctor's office. We were in the hospital a couple of weeks ago. My wife was having a procedure, and was talking to one of the nurses there. I won't mention her name, but she was like, she said, "I'm really, really happy that we don't have to wear those stupid masks anymore." Now, this is a person who is working in a hospital. Now, if any place I'd wear a mask, it's a hospital. Why? Because there's a bunch of sick ass people there. That's where the that's where the sick people go. The people who have the communicable diseases, so the blood spurting out of their eyeballs. I wouldn't have any part. I wouldn't have any problem if I was in the hospital, wearing a hazmat suit. Are you freaking kidding me? But this nurse said, I at least won't have to wear those stupid masks anymore. And she was talking about COVID, and what she mentioned was that the the quote surgical mask that you see back here that this woman here is wearing, this Chinese woman is wearing, are useless. Now I'm sure people are going to say, well, that nurse probably wasn't an immunologist, but she was probably smart enough to read, um, to help protect herself. Because she mentioned to me that the N95 masks were a lot more effective. And you know what? I buy that. Yeah, okay, probably. And that makes sense to me. And she gave a bunch of reasons why it is. But she said that thing you get there, that thing right there, all of them come from where that woman is. Useless, absolutely useless. Dentistry's not so good either, but useless. And she couldn't understand why there was a time where they still had to wear them. And then I said to her, not so sheepishly, theater, theater, had to keep it going. And you know where they're keeping it going now? China. Now, you remember all those numbers that came from China, and they didn't have any deaths, and there were deaths from COVID everywhere in the world, and except China was getting it right, according to Dr. Fauci, according to Dr. Birx, according to the CNN, all these medical pundits that were becoming famous during the height of the pandemic. China was getting it right. We're supposed to ignore all the stories about China, people in the big cities in China being welded into their literally welded into their homes. The videos we saw of people being welded into their apartments. All the things that we saw, all the things that they just decided that, on social media we weren't supposed to see. All that stuff, right? Remember? Here's something that's happening. Something stunning and potentially consequential is happening in China. People there have been protesting China's zero COVID policy. New Zealand had a zero COVID policy. That didn't work out. Under the Chinese Communist Party, as they take to the streets, Chinese citizens are not only calling for an end to such policies, but to Xi Jinping's rule, who serves at the head of the Chinese Communist Party. People are in the streets in a bunch of the major cities in China. These protests are incredibly courageous, given that the C.CP often turns violent measures to quell unrest, just as they've done historically. BBC journalist Edward Lawrence, according to reports from the Daily Mail, has been arrested. They don't want the story getting out. They just don't. CNN headline highlighted how protests and the challenges to Jinping are unprecedented. And the report has more, noting that many of the protests are at universities and that the protests are also calling attention to deadly fires. Protests erupt across China throughout the weekend, including at universities and in Shanghai, where hundreds chanted, "Step down, Xi Jinping, step down, Communist Party." It is an unprecedented show of defiance against the country's stringent and increasingly costly zero COVID policy. A deadly fire at an apartment block in the capital of the far western region of Zhangjiang, I think is pronounced, which killed 10 people and injured 9 on Thursday, has acted as a catalyst for searing public anger as videos emerged that seemed to suggest lockdown measures delayed firefighters from reaching big victims. What did I just tell you? They were welding people into their homes. In China's biggest cities, from the financial hub of Shanghai to the capital of Beijing, residents gathered to grieve the dead from the fires, speak out against zero COVID, and call for freedom and democracy. Don't call out for democracy. Call out for a rule of law. On dozens of university campuses, students demonstrated or put up protest posters. In many parts of the country, residents are locked down, are in lockdown neighborhoods, tore down barriers and took to the streets following a mass anti-lockdown protest that swept on Friday night. Such widespread scenes of anger and defiance, some of them which stretched into the early hours of Monday morning, are exceptionally rare in China, where the ruling Communist Party ruthlessly cracks down on all expression of dissent. But 3 years into the pandemic, many people have been pushed to the brink by the government's incessant use of lockdowns, COVID tests, and quarantines, as well as ever-tightening censorship and continued onslaught on personal freedoms. The ratcheting up of restrictions in recent months, coupled with a series of heartbreaking deaths blamed on an overly zealous policing of controls, has brought matters to a head. In certain parts of China, all hell's breaking loose. I wish I could get more coffee. I wish I could get excited about these people being successful, but these folks don't have any way to defend themselves. The Chinese Communist Party has all the weapons, and they're perfectly okay with going into these communities and murdering people, because China is more important than the Chinese. Let me help you. For these folks in the C.CP, China is more important than the Chinese. But if we learn anything, what we learn, or we should learn, is that if you are able to stand, you must stand. If you are able. And we are able. And we did. A lot of us did anyway. A lot of us stood. A lot of us just said no. A lot of us said no to the lockdowns, to the shutting down of our businesses. A lot of us said no to having something forcibly injected into our bodies that we did not want for whatever reason. It doesn't even matter what the reason is, whether it's religious or whether it's health. It doesn't even matter. And that's where people got it wrong. Oh, so why don't you want them? Because I don't. So what's your reason? First of all, I don't have to have a reason. Just don't. I don't like Brussels sprouts. What's the reason? I don't want them. I don't like them. I don't want them. I don't have to have a reason. I don't have to have a reason that satisfies you. I don't have to have a reason that satisfies you. I don't. So people like that were able to stand up and just say, no. No. The line in the story that we just went through, I mean, people are that these university students are standing up for freedom and democracy. That's a problem. I'm going to do a TikTok because why? China. with the difference between talking about the difference between the form of government we have here in America, in the United States. I should use that phrase more often, the United States, and what democracy is. What the words mean are important, and they are not interchangeable. And they are not interchangeable. All right, we got to get out of here. Yep, make room for somebody else. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody. And for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.